If you want to know the secrets of existence and the true meaning of life, I can't help you. But if you want some book recommendations, why not try reading the ones I wrote? If you're a fan of giant monster mayhem and anime weirdness, why not try Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1? If horror is more your style, you can't go wrong with The Occult Mafia. Those who enjoy their fantasy with a dark twist may be interested in Emerald of Maddox City. And if you're interested in shared universes, why not read all three? Hop on down to the description for links to all 3 books on Amazon. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and as you may have heard, NECA got the license to produce King Kong figures almost as soon as the license to produce Godzilla figures was dropped. There have been 3 released so far. I didn't get the first 2, but I did get the 3rd. Is it worth it? That's what I'm here to find out. Thus far, NECA's King Kong figures have all been based on the original 1933 design of the character, and for the most part, it looks pretty accurate. The face in particular looks very close to the original model. I'm not so sure about the legs though. They seem too long, proportionally more appropriate for a human than a gorilla. Once you reposition them into a wider crouching stance, he looks a little better, but still not quite right. At least the arms seem to be the proper length. The finer details really add some character to the figure. Kong's head and chest bear some nasty scars that make him look tough and battle-worn, as the 8th Wonder ought to look. The musculature that shows through his fur is also well-crafted, though perhaps his muscles are a bit more pronounced than we see in the movie. In terms of articulation, the figure doesn't skimp. There's a whopping 21 joints on this sucker, including double joints in the elbows and knees to allow for wider range of movement. Well, theoretically they allow for more movement. The more NECA figures I procure, the more apparent it becomes that they're not always as mobile as they first appear. I've got quite a few Godzilla figures, for example, with joints that look like they should bend but can only rotate, and sometimes it takes a lot of effort to do even that. Even the ones that can move usually have very stiff joints that make you work to move them, and King Kong falls into that category. He can move, but some parts are harder to move than others. The upside is that once he's posed the way you want him, he's guaranteed to hold it, but the downside is that if you're not careful, you might break him. I haven't had that problem myself, but I have heard of such things happening with other NECA figures, so I just automatically handle these with care. Now, the reason I've seen this King Kong referred to as the Ultimate King Kong is because he comes with all sorts of extra goodies. The previous King Kong figures come with 2 sets of hands and 2 heads, which are interchangeable. Ultimate King Kong still has 2 heads, but this time has 3 sets of hands. He ships with 1 of each already attached. The attached head has a neutral expression and an articulated jaw, while the attached hands are sculpted for holding things, which shall be elaborated on later. The second head wears an angry expression with a permanently closed mouth. As for the extra hands, we have 2 closed fists and 2 open palms. The angry head has different details from the neutral head, specifically having fresh wounds painted on the cheeks and a slightly pointier top. Switching them out does a lot to change how Kong looks, even when he's holding the same pose. To switch the heads isn't too hard. A little effort is required, but it was easier than I expected. I was prepared to have some trouble with the hands, as I have with other certain NECA figures of old, but to my surprise they switch out easily as well. The different hands also help add extra personality to the 8th Wonder. I'm especially fond of the open hands, which have subtle differences in finger position that make them feel more organic. But this Kong has even more features than just that, which is what motivated me to buy him specifically. The first extra is something Teddy Roosevelt would approve of, a big stick that fits neatly into either of Kong's gripping hands. It's a neat little weapon for Kong to hold, but at the end of the day, it's just a stick. The real draw are the extra Skull Island residents that he brings with him. Accompanying this version of King Kong are the Pteranodon and the Proto-Skullcrawler, referred to on the box as the Pit Monster. My initial thought when I first saw them was, wow, these guys are tiny. In the original film, the Pteranodon is roughly half as tall as Kong, and the wingspan is very wide. The Pit Monster never got to interact with Kong, but based on how big it was compared to a human, it was probably at least 10 feet long. For these figures, though, can you say diminutive? The Pteranodon is now 1/3 of Kong's size, and the pit monster is just bigger than his foot.
Not gonna lie, the difference in scale is disappointing.
I was looking forward to posing Kong and the Pteranodon like you see in the movie, but that doesn't look right with the size difference. Instead of Kong meeting a rival of equal strength, it now looks like he's beating up on a little kid. Ironically, these two look more properly scaled to the legendary Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra. Yes, I know they're not really to the proper scale with them either, but just look at them. Don't they look better with these three than with Kong?
Well, size issues aside, how are they on their own merits?
The Pteranodon has 2 points of articulation. He can rotate his head in a full circle and open his beak. He can technically open it further than what you see here, but I don't recommend doing that. He's able theoretically to stand on his own, but it's incredibly difficult getting him balanced in just the right way for it. Aesthetically, he's a darn good match for the Pteranodon in the movie, from the fabric-like folds in his wings to the shape of his head.
I couldn't tell you if the color is accurate, since the movie you may recall is in black and white, but the paint team made some interesting choices.
Overall, the Pteranodon is a muddy gray-brown, specifically on the underside of the wings. The body is rust red with purple applied to the head. On the back, a brighter red is applied in a semi-checked pattern with purple spots. They were going for symmetry, but they failed. Going from left to right, it seems that they just gave up and didn't bother applying the last spot at all. As for the pit monster, he's solid mud brown with yellow fangs and dark orange eyes. His body has all kinds of curves sculpted into it, and his legs hold a permanent crawling pose. His head can move in multiple directions, and it looks like he has an articulated jaw, but I can't really get that to move.
So is this figure worth it? Well, he delivers the most bang for your buck compared to the other two.
The scaling problem with the Pteranodon and the pit monster is a bit disappointing, but overall, this is a good rendition of the 8th wonder of the world.
I would say if you haven't gotten a NECA Kong yet, you may as well get this one and get more for your money. But otherwise, the choice is entirely yours. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off. So NECA, how about a figure of the T-Rex that Kong fights? I bet a lot of people would really like that. Just food for thought.
If you enjoyed what you just saw, hop on down to the description for links to Patreon, DeviantArt, and all of our social media, as well as links for Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, and Emerald of Maddox City, 3 original novels I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.